Hello everybody, it's Will here from Singletrack magazine and singletrackworld.com. Got some really exciting news for you today because Shimano has not just released XT 12 speed, they've also released SLX 12 speed, and I'm going to run you through this group set right now. We're going to talk about some of the features going on this SLX group set, some of the differences between SLX, XT and XTR, and how it's performed on the trail. We've been out here in Girona in Spain for the past 3 days, riding the new group sets in various configurations. We've got a really good feel for how the shift performance is, how the braking performance between the 4-piston and 2-piston brakes. And so I'm going to give you my first impressions of riding the new Shimano SLX M7100 group set. Right, so the headlines with the new SLX group set, of course it goes to 12 speed, trickling down technology from that XTR M9100 level. We'll have 1x12 and 2x12 options. Yes, Shimano is making front derailleurs still, and they'll be doing that at the XTR, the XT, and now the SLX level. Unfortunately, there have been no working 2x12 group sets here for the test out, which is a bit of a shame, but we have been riding the 1x12 setup, so I can talk about that. We'll have 2 cassette options. There'll be 10 to 45 and 10 to 51 tooth. They'll be using the new micro spline free hub body standard. We've got 2 different brake options. We have the SLX race brake, which uses a 2-piston caliper, and we have the SLX enduro brake, which uses a 4-piston caliper. Lots of nice little features and details on this group set. So let's start on the drivetrain, and we'll give you a bit of a look at this new SLX group set. Right, so Shimano sticking with aluminium for its crankset. These are Holotech aluminium cranks, and like XTR and XT, SLX has also moved to direct mount chainring. So this chainring actually sits on a spline on the drive side crank arm and attaches via a lock ring, or is secured by a lock ring. We have the narrow wide tooth profile, which Shimano calls the Dynamic Chain Engagement Plus, and the whole idea here is to be able to run a single ring without the chain bouncing off. On this particular bike we do have a lightweight upper guide for a little bit of extra security, but a lot of the bikes we've been testing the past couple of days have had no upper guide at all, and nobody has dropped a chain despite some pretty rowdy riding. Through here to the back we have, of course, this huge 10 to 51 tooth cassette. Most bikes have been set up with this larger cassette option. This beats SRAM Eagle by 1 tooth, literally 1 tooth. So instead of 10 to 50, this is 10 to 51. Very, very big cassette, very big range on here. You can see there's some really nice machining detail going on the teeth of these sprockets, and the whole idea here is to provide really fast shifting up and down. Shimano calls this Hyperglide Plus. They say you can shift down the cassette and up the cassette under power, in, out of the saddle, as aggressively as you like, and this chain will still shift. And I can tell you that is true. It is quite unbelievable how smoothly the rear shifting is on this bike, even when you're absolutely mashing on the pedals. Very, very impressive. The cassette itself is a little bit heavier than XT and XTR, and the reason for this is it is steel cogs for the first 11 sprockets with aluminium for that large 51, so consequently it is heavier. Overall, like for like, Shimano says the SLX group set is around 150 grams heavier than the XT group set, a bit over half a kilo heavier than XTR. Performance-wise, very, very similar, as I'll get onto in a moment, but in terms of weight, basically material differences between the 3 group sets, which means SLX is a little heavier. The derailleur we've got here, just like XT, this will be 2 options. There will be this guy here, which is designed specifically for the 1x12 drivetrain. There will be another rear derailleur, which is specific for the 2x12 setup. You can run that other derailleur as a 1x as well, but the slant angle, as in the way that the parallelogram moves through the gears, is optimized for the 10 to 45 tooth cassette and the 2x12 setup. So 2 rear derailleurs with SLX. We still get the friction clutch here, the Shadow Plus friction clutch, and that allows you to turn it off when you're taking the wheel in and out of the bike, and to flick it on. And the idea there is to keep chain nice and tight, so even when you're banging around the trail, the chain is going to stay nice and snug and reduce the chance of it bouncing off the front chain ring. The pulleys on these are 13 tooth pulleys, but unlike XT and XTR, these use bushings instead of bearings, so there is a difference there in terms of construction on the pulley wheels on the SLX rear derailleur. We'll move up to the shifter, and here we have a very similar look with the SLX shifter to the XT and XTR. So it is a trigger shifter. It's terms of action, it's actually lighter than XT, and it's really smooth, quite effortless actually. And the reason for this is it doesn't have the instant release function. So when you are hitting these paddles, it's not immediately pulling the cable. There is a slight little bit of hesitation there, just a little bit, but there is a nice smooth shift feel, which I actually quite like. There's no rubber pads on the shift paddles here, so you still get this nice textured detail on the paddles, and that's great, particularly if you're wearing gloves and or it's wet or muddy. You've got a little bit more friction there between your thumb and the paddle. Feels really nice. The way that the shifter mounts onto the handlebar, there will be two options: a standard band clamp version and this one here. This is iSpec EV, exactly the same system as XT and XTR, and the idea is to bolt the shifter to the same clamp as the brake lever. So this is called iSpec EV. Like XT, it gives you 14 millimeters of lateral adjustability, and it gives you 20 degrees of rotational adjustment, so you can actually bring this shifter further up or further back around underneath the handlebar, depending on how you like to set it up for your thumbs and your preferred shifting style. Now, this particular adjustment is a little different to XTR. XTR does get more rotational adjustment, so you do lose a little bit of adjustability going to XT and SLX, which only get 20 degrees, not 60 degrees of rotational adjustment. Because this is a one-by setup, we don't have a front shifter. We do have Shimano's dropper post lever. This is exactly the same as the one that was launched with XTR last year. I believe it's the MT800 dropper post lever, and again, nice textured paddle, and uses the iSpec EV mount, so it's designed to bolt on to the brake lever. Now let's come around here to the brake lever. Just like the XT Groupset, Shimano will be offering the SLX brakes in two options. There's a 2-piston race brake option and a 4-piston enduro option. Now the brake lever is exactly the same, so there's, unlike XTR where you have two different brake levers for the race and the enduro setup, with XT and SLX they use exactly the same brake lever for both brakes. So we have a nice alloy lever blade here. We still get the tool-free reach adjustment, so that allows you to fine-tune the reach of the lever without requiring any tools at all. You just use this nice neat little dial. Still running with mineral oil, and you can use Shimano's cup tool for bleeding this brake. The one difference that I noticed before is that there's no dimples, no kind of textured surface on the brake lever blade here. XT and XTR get nice little dimples on the brake lever, which provides a little bit more friction for your finger. The SLX brake lever blade, in comparison, is completely smooth, so no texture on there at all. But the structure of the brake lever is the same. So we've got the new mid-mount clamp. This is a split clamp in order to remove the brake from the handlebar, but you can see now that the clamp is in the middle of the brake lever body, and the brake lever body is actually braced with this little piece here against the handlebar, and this is all about increasing stiffness and reducing the amount of wiggle that the brake lever will have when you're really hard on the anchors. These brakes feel absolutely fantastic, and I think this new master cylinder design that Shimano is running with the new XT, SLX and XTR brakes is a big improvement on the previous brakes. Great modulation, great feel, and I think with this stiffer body and the way that it's braced against the bar, gives it a really nice feel when you're really hooking on the anchors. Now we're going to come down here to the new 4-piston brakes. These are what Shimano is calling the enduro brake option. So it's a 4-piston brake caliper. As I understand, the piston diameters are the same between SLX, XT and XTR with these new 4-piston enduro brakes. So that is unchanged over the existing Shimano enduro brakes. These have finned pads, you can see there, and that's designed to help reduce heat buildup under really heavy sustained braking. Right, and as for how it performed on the trail, it's been flawless, honestly. Very few complaints with the performance of the new SLX 12-speed Groupset. The shifting is so very good. There is very little separating SLX, XT and XTR in terms of shifting. Very impressive. Again, that Hyperglide Plus shift technology on the cassette and chain means you can really mash the gears under power and they'll still shift every single time. They'll make a bit of a bang here and there, but very little loss of power or chain change in cadence. There's just so little lag when you go to shift, the chain moves across the cassette so quickly. Very, very impressive. In terms of braking, I've been really impressed with the 4-piston calipers. I actually think they have a little bit better modulation than the 2-piston calipers, but then more power later on in the stroke. Shimano reckons there's about 22% increase in power with the 4-piston calipers over the 2-piston calipers. So I really think the enduro brake with that 4-piston caliper setup is going to be the one to go for most riders, for sure. The only downside with the 4-piston stoppers, and I experienced this on both the SLX and the XT enduro brakes, is that the finned brake pads have a habit of rattling around in the caliper, and you can actually hear that on the trail as a kind of annoying ticking noise. You can open up the pad springs just to give a little bit more tension inside the brake pads. Even after spreading out the pad spring, I still found I was getting noise from it. This is something I have experienced on the XTR enduro brakes previously. This does seem to be a problem specific to the finned brake pads, but it's something that Shimano should get sorted out ASAP. Now, if you'd like to read more about the new SLX and XT 12-speed group sets, make sure you go to singletrackworld.com. There's a load of technical details on how this new group set works, and we've got loads of comparative data in terms of the construction differences and weight differences between all 3 group sets. So make sure you jump on the website to read more. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because we have plenty more videos coming your way in the near future. Otherwise, that's it from me from Girona in Spain. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as I said, jump on the website for more detail on the brand new Shimano XT and SLX 12-speed group sets. We'll see you next time, guys. Tooroo!